Once my divorce from my husband, Jack, was final, I started living with my daughter, Emily, but about 6 months later, something unexpected happened. It was my day off, and I was spending time at home with Emily when I got a phone call from my mom. To my surprise, my ex-husband and his mom showed up at my mom's house without asking for permission. I quickly got ready and went over to my mom's house. When I arrived, they were sitting on the couch waiting for me. I had no idea why they were there. "Why are you here all of a sudden?" I asked, surprised. Jack's response shocked me even more. "I need you to give me back the money you owe me," he said. "My name is Sarah, and I'm 40 years old. I've been married to Jack for 14 years. Our daughter, Emily, was born around the time we got married, so she's already in 8th grade. The three of us were happy as a family, and I thought we would always have a nice home together. I met Jack on a blind date, and I liked his friendly and cheerful personality right away. He liked me too, and we kept in touch through high school. After a few dates, he proposed a year later, and we got married. I was so happy, and I loved him a lot. I had a close group of friends from high school, and when I told them I was getting married, they were all excited for me. They even came to the wedding, saying they hoped to get married one day too. After my wedding, my friends all started getting married one by one. We laughed and talked about how we had gone from being a group of classmates to a group of married women. Then, when I got pregnant, they all started having babies, and soon we became a group of mom friends. I felt like we were going through life together and would stay close forever. I had a good life as a wife and mom, but I was also happy working at the company where I worked. After college, I joined the planning and development department of a big company, and I was busy every day. The work was hard, but it was very rewarding and I learned something new every day. One of my friends, who stays home, once said to me, "You're such a workaholic, Sarah, but you also have a great family life. It's like you have two lives." She said I was strong, but I wished I had the energy to do everything like a man would. After a long day at work, both Jack and Emily helped me relax at home. "Welcome home, Mom." Emily used to greet me with a hug when I came home from work. Her hug made me forget my tiredness. "Welcome home, honey, dinner's ready." Jack would greet me too. He had quit his job after Emily was born to help me balance my career. Jack worked part-time at a cafe and took care of the school runs. When I came home, he'd cook dinner for me. After a tiring day at work, it was such a relief to come home to a hot meal. Jack's cooking always made me feel better. I'd take a bath with Emily, and we'd talk about our day. My life was great, work and home were both fulfilling, and I could manage both because Jack and Emily supported me. But as Jack and Emily let me focus more on work, I started to get even more passionate about it. I got promoted and began working more overtime. Soon, I was coming home late at night, and by then, Emily was already in bed. Luckily, Emily was older and understood my job. She started doing more things on her own, and Jack worked more shifts at the cafe. Lately, I've been really into trying different coffee shops and buying their beans. I even bought some today along with cakes from a new shop. We could enjoy them with the coffee. Jack had become interested in coffee too. He was learning how to roast beans and make different kinds of coffee at his job. He made amazing coffee at home too. With Jack and Emily being so understanding, I didn't realize our family bond was slowly starting to weaken. I first noticed it when Emily came to me with a problem. "What's wrong? You said you wanted to talk about something?" I asked Emily. "Well, the other day, when I went to the movies with some friends from school, I saw Dad with another woman. They weren't holding hands or anything, but they looked kind of close, and for a while now, I've noticed Dad talking on the phone a lot before you come home from work. Mom, he also spends a lot of time on his phone, and he doesn't really listen to me when I talk to him. He looks happy when he's on his phone. At first, I thought it was you he was texting or calling, but after what I saw, I started wondering if he was talking to that woman." Emily looked really sad as she said this. She was already in middle school, so I knew this would be tough for her to handle. I was shocked too. I never imagined Jack, who I thought was focused on Emily, could be having an affair behind my back. "Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetie. I didn't know we were making you feel like this. I've been a bit focused on work, haven't I?" "No, I think it's cool that you work hard. Mom, don't feel bad about that," Emily said with a kind smile. I was so grateful for her understanding. "Thank you, Emily. I'll talk to your dad about this, okay? And if he's having an affair, I think I'll divorce him. Would that be okay with you?" She nodded, looking serious. "I don't like the idea of Dad having an affair. Just knowing about it and being with him would make me feel bad." Hearing that from Emily made me realize I hadn't been paying enough attention to my family. I needed to look into this situation, not just for me but for Emily, who had the courage to talk to me about it. I immediately hired a private investigator to check on Jack, and the results were shocking. Emily was right, Jack was indeed having an affair, and there was even photo evidence. But what shocked me most was the woman he was with. It was Nancy, one of my old friends from high school and part of the moms group. I was more stunned by the betrayal from Nancy than by Jack's affair. I couldn't believe my friend, someone I had trusted, was involved with Jack. Nancy had a young child, about 5 years old, and was still having an affair without caring for her own kid. I was in complete shock and couldn't move for a while. I was glad Emily wasn't around to see those photos. There was no way I could show them to her or confront Jack just yet. After a few deep breaths, I tried to calm myself. Then, one of my other friends from the moms group told me she had switched jobs. I thought it was a good opportunity to suggest we all meet up. Nancy had no idea I knew about her affair, so I could still keep my plan under wraps. 3 weeks later, we all met up. Nancy still didn't know I was aware of everything, so we talked normally. I asked about my friend's new job, and everyone shared updates on their lives. Everyone's working now, so things are changing. I'm just a housewife, Nancy said casually. I was just going through the usual routine when Nancy said, "Well, you don't have to work, Sarah, because you have a husband who takes care of everything for you." One of my friends responded to Nancy, saying, "I appreciate my husband, but sometimes I feel a little bored of everything." I guess now's the time to talk and confront Nancy about her secret, I thought. So that's why you're having an affair with someone else's husband, huh? Huh? Nancy and the others froze when I spoke up. Hey, Sarah, what do you mean by that? Nancy's face turned pale, and another friend asked me the question. Well, it looks like Nancy is having an affair with my husband, Jack, I said. What? No way, you must be joking. Nancy would never do such a thing. My friends tried to defend her. Nancy took advantage of this. That's right, Aaron, you must be mistaken. I think you've got the wrong idea. Of course Nancy would say that. Well then, why don't you all see for yourselves? I said, pulling out the photos of their affair from my bag. My friends stared at the photos in shock. Oh my gosh, Nancy, why? One of my friends said. Nancy couldn't hide her shock, covering her mouth with her hand. I was really shocked. Why did you have an affair with my husband? I asked her. Nancy finally admitted, I'm really sorry. I went to the cafe where your husband works, and I didn't know he worked there. After that, I kept going back. My husband takes care of me, but he stopped paying attention to me after we got married. I was feeling lonely. Nancy started crying, but I couldn't be moved by her tears. Having an affair is wrong, no matter the reason. I'm sorry to everyone else, but I'm going to make sure Nancy pays alimony. I've already sent the papers to your house, Nancy. Maybe your husband has already received them, I said. Oh no, how could he do this? Nancy cried. It's worse to mess around with your friend's husband while you're married and have a child of your own. You should be punished and pay for what you've done, I told her. Nancy turned pale and nodded. We can't trust you anymore, Nancy, one of my friends said, and we left the restaurant, leaving Nancy behind. After getting my revenge on Nancy, I had to deal with Jack next. I was sure Nancy had already contacted him, so when I got home, Jack greeted me at the door, looking panicked. How could you? He asked. What? I just got off the phone with Nancy. Are you talking about your affair? How could you do this so publicly? You were pretending to be a good husband, but you were having an affair behind my back, I yelled. No, it's not like that, but why did you expose Nancy like that? Why would you do something so ridiculous? Jack argued. It seemed like people who have affairs think it's okay as long as no one knows, but in reality, it's still wrong. Everything needs to come to light. That's why I'm divorcing you and asking for alimony and child support, I told him. Since I had solid evidence of his affair, Jack agreed to the divorce, but he was hesitant to pay alimony and child support. I hired a good lawyer and told him I was ready to take it to court, and finally, he agreed to pay. So, I divorced Jack, sold our house, and moved into a new apartment with Emily. I filed for alimony from both Jack and Nancy and received $30,000 from each of them. I also asked for child support from Jack. After everything was settled, Emily and I started a new life. This whole thing was traumatizing, but over time, I began to heal. Then, about 6 months later, something unexpected happened. I was relaxing with Emily on my day off when my mom called with surprising news. My ex-husband, Jack, and his mother had shown up at my parents' house uninvited. Since my dad wasn't home, my mom called me in a panic. I quickly got ready and headed over to my parents' house. When I arrived, Jack and his mom were sitting on the sofa, waiting for me. I had no idea why they were there. What are you two doing here at my parents' house all of a sudden? I asked, and my ex-husband, Jack, shocked me with his response. I want you to give me back the money you owe me. Huh? I never borrowed any money from you. I paid $115,000 for the wedding, didn't I? You were the one at the center of it, so that means I lent you money for the wedding. Now that we're divorced, it's all a scam. Honestly, I should sue you for marriage fraud, but all I'm asking for is $115,000 as a settlement, he said, making an impossible demand. My ex-mother-in-law backed him up. urging me to pay him immediately. After the divorce, I knew Jack had gotten a low-paying job at the cafe where he used to work. I assumed he was in financial trouble, which explained his unreasonable demands. Well, let me remind you that we were both in charge of the wedding, and even after that, I paid more of our living expenses than you did. If you add it all up, $15,000 is just a small fraction of what I paid, so don't harass me with these ridiculous demands, I said, trying to get them to leave, but they weren't budging. Just then, my father arrived home. He had apparently gotten a call from my mother and rushed back. What's going on here? My father demanded. Jack explained his demand to my father while looking terrified. My father listened silently but was clearly furious. It's your fault for having the affair in the first place. If you're going to make such ridiculous demands, get out of here, my father said, trying to kick them out, but Jack dropped to his knees. Please, Sarah, lend me money, not just from you. Nancy's husband is demanding alimony from me, and I can't pay it. $115,000? No, even $10,000 would help, Jack pleaded. I couldn't believe it. He was begging for money at a time like this. I told him coldly, no, I can't do that, now go home. But my ex-mother-in-law insisted, you're also responsible for what happened, and kept pushing that I should lend the money. Seeing the situation escalate, my father said, all right, I'll get the money, you stay here. He went to another room. Dad, what do you mean? I followed him, and he grinned. Well, we have plenty of money. Since we've got it, why don't we share it with them? He opened a closet and pulled out stacks of cash. This will be interesting, my father said, putting the bills in an envelope and handing it to Jack. After finally getting what they wanted, Jack and his mother left, looking satisfied. As soon as they were gone, I locked the door and called the police. It wasn't long before Jack and his mother returned, banging on the door. What the hell is this? This is fake money from Monopoly. I don't want this fake cash, Jack shouted. I laughed and replied from behind the door, since we have so much money, I thought I'd share it with you. Jack was furious. You've got to be kidding. He started banging harder on the door, and I could hear them kicking it, but they didn't realize this was going to backfire on them. The police arrived just as they were kicking the door, catching them in the act. Neighbors had gathered around and witnessed the arrest, and word quickly spread, especially to Jack's workplace. A regular customer at the cafe saw the arrest, and Jack was fired on the spot. Now, Jack can't find work and has moved back in with his parents. His in-laws are covering his alimony and child support. Meanwhile, I've taken out a restraining order against my former in-laws, ensuring that if anything happens, my family can immediately call the police. I'm now happier than ever with Emily. I continue to work hard and watch my daughter grow up, knowing that I'm in control of my own life.